I've just washed 2 cups of dried peas. You can choose whichever type of peas you like, or beans, your favorites. And I'm gonna add some water because these are dry. I'm gonna pressure them. So I'm gonna add enough water until it is about an inch above the level of the peas. So I've added 5 cups of water. So as you can see, the water level, you have to have enough water because the peas, they're dried, they will absorb a lot of water. And so you don't want, because I'm putting on it in a pressure cooker, I don't want during that time when I can't lift the lid off, the water is fully dried out, and then the peas get burned. So here I have a nice piece of pumpkin. I have washed it and I used a spoon to scoop out the inside, and I put it in the plastic wrap and put it in the fridge, and that will make it last longer until you're ready to use it. It's important to scoop out the seeds and all of that in the middle. So I'm gonna boil this now. So I'm gonna put just a little less than a quarter teaspoon of salt in the water for the pumpkin, and I'm gonna place the pumpkin whole in the water. I could cut it up, but I'm gonna mash it, so it's easier for me to just scrape it all out of the skin. So normally I would have boiled it and eat the skin too, but because I'm gonna mash it with the sweet potato, I'm just putting it all into the water. You don't have to cover it fully with the water. You just have it up to about 3/4 ways up, because pumpkin is easy to cook. So I'm gonna cover it, and it is gonna just cook quickly, and it's the top, which is above the water, will just seep in that water and steam and be cooked. So you don't have to put all that extra water in there. So that's it. See? Alright. Okay, I'm gonna test the pumpkin to see if it's ready. It's not ready because the fork is not going through. So when it's ready, the fork will go right through. It's ready. So as soon as the pumpkin boils, you take it out of the water or pour off the water. If you don't do that, it will just sit in the water and absorb more water and get all soggy. So I've added 1 pack of coconut powder. I'm going to add another half a pack just to get it nice and rich and creamy. And you can use the coconut powder in the tin, the coconut cream in the tin. You can use the coconut cream in the tin also, or you can get your own fresh coconuts and blend them and strain them. But we're working in the interest of time right now. So, and it also gives a really nice flavor because it's good quality coconut cream. So I'm gonna let that boil a little while I cut up the rest of the seasoning and add them to the pot. So I've added all the onion and stir this a little bit. This is how the thyme looks when I freeze it, so it still looks pretty good. Remember, I'm not going to be using any of the bottle seasoning, so I'm using lots of fresh seasoning. So I'm going to add the salt. This is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. If you don't want to, that could be enough if you don't like a lot of salt. So I'm going to add just a little bit more, like about a 1/8. And that is it. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, so maybe about a little less than a half a teaspoon of salt. But remember, you taste as you go along if you're not sure. And the black pepper. I'm gonna add a half a teaspoon. So the thing with a stew now, you just let it simmer. You don't let it boil too hard. You just let it simmer gently. And this is where we are 20 minutes after. I think I'm gonna put some more water in there and get the peas a little softer. I want just a slight mash to the peas so that the sauce is nice and thick. I'm gonna take out the pepper for now until I'm ready to taste it and see what happens. And I like to use a spatula to just scrape down the sides of the pot. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little water, 1 cup of water, and then we boil some more. I'm adding 1 cup of water. I'm gonna turn it down low. So if you had used the dried chickpeas, then you would have had to put them in at the beginning with these peas. So, which is usually the best thing to do, use everything that is not in a tin. We're all done now. This is how it looks, nice and thick and creamy. I'm gonna mash it with the sweet potato. It would have been fine just by itself because it's a really lovely, what we call dry pumpkin. Here I have a sweet potato. I washed it with soap and a scouring pad and boil it in the skin. That way when you taste it, it tastes much sweeter. You realize the real flavor of the sweet potato instead of peeling it and boiling it. So you can also peel it and boil it. It's up to you, whatever it is that you prefer. And if you could roast it too, roasting gives it even a nicer flavor. But when you wash it and you're gonna boil it with the skin, like the parts where you have the little holes, you have to take a little knife with a point and, like, clean out these areas properly and cut out a little bit out of them like that. I'm adding 2 tablespoons cooking oil. Excuse that sound of my neighbor. He's cutting his lawn or trees or something. I'm gonna add the seasoning. As you know, you noticed I put the pepper in this time because I want this, it's gonna be okra, so I want it to be a little more peppery. So I'm just gonna fry these down a little. Cover the pot, let them get a little soft. I'm gonna add the okras. They were frozen. I bought them nice and fresh, so I just cut them up and put them in the freezer. I'm gonna let this, just gonna cover the pot and let the okra sprout a little. I'm gonna go to the next step. It has the celery, potatoes, and string beans. So that is the difference between it and the regular mixed veg. I'm now gonna add a little, about a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper with a 1/4 teaspoon of all-purpose seasoning. You can use your favorite seasoning. I won't add any salt because the tin veggies having salt. So, but you can taste it, and if you want to add more salt, you can add more salt. But I'm cooking with less salt. I'm gonna turn this around a couple times. I'm gonna cover it up for about 5 minutes, and then let's see if the okras will be ready. So when the okras change the color, that's when you know they're ready. But you can also taste it to see if you like it like that. I don't make it too soft, and I didn't add any water to it because I didn't want it to get mushy. So that's it. So these are our dishes. This is the okra. It's a very healthy vegetarian meal. So vegetarian doesn't have to be boring. I'm not a vegetarian, but I eat healthy most times. So I eat a lot of veggies and beans and peas. So that's it. We normally take out the thyme. Now we put our pepper in the center. And that's it. Enjoy.